Okie
Okay,
dokie.
got
I'm
it.
gonna hit record now, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, friends, we're back at the Peace Now podcast. I'm so excited. I'm with my new friend, Molly OLeary today. How are you today, Molly?
Very good, thank you. Delighted to be here.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited to have this conversation. And I wanted to start by asking you a question about absorption.
Hmm.
Like what has been, I'm curious what's been capturing your attention recently, what has been absorbing you, what's been
Yeah.
organizing your desire.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm trying to follow joy to a large extent.
Hmm.
And I'm learning Irish at the moment. The Irish language, it really gives me this kind of like nearly giddy kind of childlike joy. Um, so like processes which bring me joy is like a huge thing. I suppose like feelings like in the body as well and like performing as well is like a huge thing that's been um tickling me, I suppose. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm not really thinking at the moment. It's less of a like abstract. Like I definitely have that mode where it's like I have a problem that I want to solve or like an intellectual issue where I'm like exploring it and I'm looking at it from different angles and like trying to some sort of code. But that's not really. I guess at the moment it's more like modes of being in my body that like give me joy. That I'm just like following that sensation. And it's like it's really great. Yeah.
Ooh, that's yeah, interesting. So what you've been absorbed by recently is like your body and enjoy, like what feels good and pleasurable in your body.
Totally. Yeah, yeah, totally. And like I think it's so necessary because it's like January and it's freezing and it's like you just gotta find like the warmth from within. So yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've been. It's interesting you say that because maybe we can use that as like a framework or a guiding principle for this conversation, like what feels good to talk about. Um, yeah, because there's like such an interesting relationship between like preparation and like intention and
Right.
and then like feeling good. So I'm
Yeah.
like curious about that.
Yeah. So could you spell it out a bit more for me? Like the just it's not springing to mind exactly what the connection what it like could you just explain it to me?
Yeah, sure. So I think about this like relationship between freedom and potency.
Mm,
And so like for me, like freedom is about following desire and what
right.
feels good and going towards it.
Mm,
And potency
mm.
is about like sometimes if I'm writing or something, I might
Yeah.
hit an emotional block and I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But if I
Okay.
keep pushing through it, the thing will become like
Mm.
powerful. Um,
Right.
yeah, and then I've been really leaning towards freedom and
Yeah,
just
I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah. Like it's interesting because like I suppose like there's it's like it's your wants and your wills as well is important to distinguish sometimes as well. Because like I feel like if you're just kind of like it's not that I'm just kind of intuitively following what my body wants or something. I'm also like focused on like a will which is like overarching and like a place in the world which is like, and a determination to get there, but that's like that's more so it's like long term versus short term joy, I suppose. And
Ooh.
sometimes there can be compromises for the long term, but it's still there's still a second order like feeling good because you're like still pursuing joy over the course of your long term goals or your will, you know.
Gotcha, that's interesting. So this joy that you're feeling is carrying you like a vehicle somewhere.
Yeah, oh, totally. Well, it's interesting because I think it's very retrospective. So, yeah, so what I was trying to say is like, it's not just that I'm doing like things that are like happiness, like joyful, like in the moment. It's also there's like a long term, like, so that's what I was saying was maybe like a want or some
Huh?
type, but that's like a will, which is like a long term want. And like,
Yeah.
and it's really, like, I don't know, but like I think about it nearly like my future self is like sending the joy back to me. Like I don't know, like well, I don't really know how it works metaphysically, but it feels less like it's coming from the present into the future and more like it's something in the future that's like retrospectively helping me, like a vision or a dream that's like helping me feel motivated.
That's fascinating. Yeah, time. So you have like a interesting perspective of time. And so there's this destination of some kind of preferred outcome, and your future self is there. And
Yeah.
and you're getting that, and the frequency or the sound that she's like saying, she's like, come towards me, and it's via joy.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I can't fully see, but I'm like working through the mist, so to speak, as we were saying earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, can we talk about that miss thing?
Totally.
Yeah,
I'll explain for those. So we were saying I'm learning a bit of Irish at the moment, and I picked a card, a tarot card for my sister this morning to give her a tarot reading in Irish. And it was the Nine of Cups. And when I was researching the card and looking at the card, some of it is about wish fulfillment. So a wish coming true. So then I was trying to figure out how to say coming true or sort of to make material, to make real, like in Irish. And I came across this beautiful phrase. I mean, I don't know, like it's just from the online dictionary folklore.ie, but like, it's the phrase that it translated as to make true is nakshi asan gno, which means to come out of the mist, to emerge out of the mist. And we just thought that like was so evocative, like this idea that something is in the ethereal realm, like through the mist and like invisible. And then once it comes out, that's when it materializes. That's how we say, like, to realize something, to make material, to make it able to hold in your hands. So, yes. So, Brian, do you have anything more to add to that? Or
well, yeah, I think when you said it to me, it resonated with when it comes to like creativity for me.
yeah,
Like Leonard Cohen has this quote where he's like, "If I knew the place where poems came from, I'd go there every day." And I just that mist thing. It's like I feel in my creative process, like, yeah, I'm kind of in the mist, and it's like a poem. Hello, it like comes at me,
it's so
and
funny.
and it emerges, yeah. And then I like your method of joy because you're like you know the destination, not like in a spatial,
Mm.
but it's like a feeling. Because I think that's like the time thing makes it adds an interesting angle to this, because it's like the future, the present is emerging from the mist. The present is emerging from the future through the mist or something like that, which is just so
Yeah.
evocative. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, yeah, it's really stunning. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just let me just think for a moment about what I want to say now. Yeah, like there's an aspect as well. I guess what I find really appealing for it is like I'm really interested in unknowable things and mysterious things as well. Like that's something that's like always been an interest of mine. But um like that aspect of awe and like also trust that comes, like if you think
Mhm.
about it, you were starting to describe, you nearly feel like you're in the mist and then a poem just comes, but like how much trust is there involved in not being able to see? Like that's such a beautiful thing to kind of see in the dark, nearly, to keep your faith and your trust even when you can't see. It's like it's very like a empowering and like dignified way of being, I feel, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. This kind of trust and surrender. Like, yeah, there is a fear, though, especially, well, one thing that's kind of evocative when I first found you, I found you through your blog on Substack about fashion and capitalism.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of interesting with this way of living idea because it's kind of scary to like if you're making money or something, like because the rent is coming, it's like it's the
Yeah.
things are coming, and then if I don't have the poem or something, it's like scary, which then makes me not
Yeah.
open, to
Right. Yeah. So there's good fear and bad fear almost, I would say, Sorry to interrupt.
no, no, it's
Did
okay.
I did I cut out for a second? No.
Just a little bit, but it's fine. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
let's talk about fear. Like, how would you
Yeah.
differentiate those fear, those types of
Yeah. Because it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think I can be very trusting, but then fear can also be fear can also be a guide, like all emotions, it can be a guide. Um, so you want to feel the fear and then kind of like I was even a bit scared about it. I knew it was like an excited fear. I guess that's where wisdom comes in, because like to be able to differentiate different types of fear and like whether you should act on your fear or whether it will pass, like whether, you know, maybe that's with wisdom, you
Mm.
know, because I did feel a little bit scared, but I was like, no, but I know it's going to be good, but I just still feel like a little bit nervous, you know? So, so I suppose, yeah, like whether there could be good fear and bad fear, like, you know, maybe part of it is as well as fears you actually choose versus an external constraint,
Uh,
like, you know, money or rent or something like this. Part of it too. Let me know if I'm breaking up. I can maybe move to somewhere where there's better reception. I wonder if it's part of the end.
yeah,
I did
you're
have. Let me just move to a different room. 1 second.
cool.
But I can keep chatting.
Cool.
But sorry, I'm settled now. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, we've been following you completely.
Okay,
It's
perfect.
just a little
No,
lag talking
okay,
about.
great, great. I just wasn't sure if because you froze, so I wasn't sure if it had frozen. Yeah.
One thing you should know about the Peace Now podcast, Molly, is we did an episode with Bio Akumalafe and we invoked the trickster.
Wow.
And so ever since then, we view the glitches as very creative.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're not, that's very interesting. I like that. That's cool. And you actually invited the glitches in.
Yeah, because sometimes I fixate and I view it as a form of wisdom. So sometimes the
Yeah.
interview needs shaken up a little bit. Like I love the space you're in and I love the angle. Yeah, it's making me feel happy. Um, yeah.
I wanted to look really professional, but the thing, like, anyway, look, here we go.
Yeah, yeah, professionalism is yeah, because also like when it comes to creativity, going back to this freedom thing, I do.
Mm.
Oh, and you said you're interested in mystery too.
Yeah, totally.
Like I think I have an interest in psychology, spirituality, philosophy, and I
Yeah,
have these interests as well. But in a certain sense, I sometimes find my interlocutors and collaborators, like we have this fun tension because I'm
yeah,
trying to make sure like philosophy and psychology fail because like it
right.
I want to find the
That's so interesting. No, no, no. And like it's so true. Like it's like the crack where the light gets in kind of thing.
yeah,
And
it's
yeah,
fun.
yeah, totally. No, 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 I get you. Um, yeah, that's interesting for sure. No, and like I think it's really important not to try like to let it be a process, to let it be playful, like rather than to try and impose some sort of structure like that, you know, overly impositional structure, you know, that but I think that again, that's again where time versus space maybe comes in slightly, because it's like I think temporal like intentions are really good, you know,
Yeah.
and like forward and like setting an intention and like, you know, because time is always unpredictable, the present moment is always unpredictable. So, you know, you can always, but yeah, but sometimes like sort of like spatial impositions are less useful, I think.
Yeah, like the direction. Like, I like the metaphor with creativity of stumbling, kind of like drunk. It's like
Mm,
I'm going there, but I might have to go like this to get there.
mm,
And that's where the drunkenness is like the joy or whatever feeling we're
yeah.
following. It's like, well, why are you taking me to India, or why are you taking me to uh fashion when I think I'm writing a novel?
Mm,
But it's like, no,
yeah, totally, totally,
I need
totally.
I need to go. And that's where I love this trust idea because it's
Mm.
like it doesn't seem to logically compute sometimes.
No,
But then,
no, 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 that's so true. And like, I was actually thinking because I was there and I was like, oh, he's going to ask me about fashion or
Mhm.
music or one of the things that I was pondering about this morning was just like so many, I think real innovation words come last. Some like not always. Obviously, there can be a kind of like incantation, like type channeling, but that's quite rare. Like I often think that innovation, like change, happens, and then once you're able to articulate it, it's already in the past. you know what I'm saying? Once you're able to properly describe what's going on, it's become a little bit stratified in some way. But then actual, like, that's why, some other art forms can be so amazing because they're so close to the beat of change and like the beat
Mhm.
of the collective unconscious. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that is so interesting. And they're harder to talk about, but they're all, yeah. And then thought is like very right, like an abstraction, yeah, it's stratifying.
It doesn't have to be though. At the same time, like that's where I'm like, other languages is so cool, and like even just
Yeah.
riffing the way they are now, like you can find ways of conversing that aren't like trying to be systemic.
You know what's a fun practice I like to do, Molly? And it reminds me of your Irish thing. Is sometimes when I'm
Mm.
studying philosophy or psychology, I like to go to the Wikipedia of different languages and translate it. So if
Oh,
you look
cool.
like at the German, and you can see
Yeah.
huge qualitative difference between like
Yeah.
German and
Oh,
French.
no, totally. Oh, no,
Just how they
totally.
structure it is fascinating. Like, and it
Yeah.
just really helps circle around a concept because languages
Mm.
have completely different resources.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just thinking. I love the metaphor or like the trickster like character as well, because like even thinking about like what you're saying, like well, we mentioned like the fashion blog, but also languages. I just had this realization, like I love like putting on characters in different modes and nearly a mask,
Uh-huh.
like that kind of thing that like where you're like putting on a mask and you're trying out a different character and you're like but it's like in a playful way and there's like a bit of disguise which allows you to be like more yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting thing about language too, is like you're nearly putting on another person's suit and like doing like a little dance like
I love
and
that.
then like and like you get the feel of what it is to be in that culture and in that language and then you can change again. So yeah, so it's very interesting. Like there's definitely a commonality between like playing dress up and playing languages, I feel.
Playing philosophy. Well,
Yeah.
when that's a very interesting frame though that you're bringing into it, which I think is really interesting. Like for me that it feels like a big qualitative difference if I go into a philosopher and wear them, versus
Yeah.
like trying to figure out if they're right.
Right, right, right. Well, I don't know if I was talking about philosophy,
Okay.
the language aspect,
Oh, I
but
see.
yeah, I guess I feel it's different too when you're kind of solving something because but just when you're just speaking a different language, that's more what I was trying to describe. Or like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's like a different frame. There's an acting Meisner. He said acting is truth under imaginary conditions.
Oh
And,
wow, that's interesting. Yeah, no, that's so fascinating because I feel there's a lot. Yeah, it's so true. Like because like it's nearly like a kaleidoscope where like you get little glimpses of things that bring you different directions. Again, what you're saying about the stumbling and so on.
mhm.
Yeah, but like it's just like it's more. It's like it's also like yeah. Anyway, it's just cool. I don't know what I'm getting, but like I guess it's like a plenitude or something of like it's better to increase difference and like have different angles and like rather than and then like that gives you new perspectives that are like all angles of like something cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea instead of reducing. Like, I guess that's one thing that I
Mm.
like just qualitatively is I like increase.
Right.
Complex.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So we're kind of vibing on the stumbling metaphor.
Yeah.
And where are you stumbling? I'm curious in your life. Like, what are you
Oh,
stumbling?
where am I stumbling? That's interesting. Well, because it's such a loaded term. Like I feel like I can't think of stumbling without like thinking of
Oh,
like judgment. Like without judging it, and like then I'm like, so it's really interesting because this is like flipping. I suppose one of the aspects like this probably is the opposite to stumbling, but maybe it's something that I'm trying to work through. But it's like as I work through it, it's like maybe it's not linear and it's like, yeah, it feels a bit like stumbling. But yeah, I think sometimes I can be a bit like trying maybe being a bit perfectionistic about stuff.
ooh,
So like having a slightly so it's exactly the opposite to kind of stumbling, but like I suppose I don't know. I'm just trying to do my best at all times, but it's gonna be like a heavy burden or something.
Mhm.
So like it's not coming from a place like a bad place, but then I'm just like maybe I'm trying to like decode that. Like I'm trying to like sort of deprogram it nearly, like as like a way of being. So, but it's like it's definitely like a non-linear path because that's one thing. And then the other thing that I'm trying to do is like just be more present
Mhm.
as well. Like they're like huge things, like just to be more present. Um, and that's a stumble too, because like you don't, it's like you try to be present and then like it's never it's you have to keep working on it. It's like an ongoing process. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if yeah, so there's one thing that stumbling invokes a kind of judgment because it's like
Yeah.
a
Oh,
failure.
totally. And that's so interesting to me because that's why that was the first thing I thought of was me being judgmental. But then I was like, oh, that's really interesting. If I can remove the judgmental aspect of stumbling, or just like treat it as like a cool thing, that's like, or like a fun sort of like hop and a skip or something. You know what I mean? Like then it's like, yeah. I love
Yeah,
the way it's such an embodied description as well. Like you can literally picture it in your head, and that like those types of grounded descriptions of things like that take place in the body. I think it really helps you to figure out stuff. You know what I mean? Like because that like you do it all the time.
absolutely. Yeah, I think the idea of it being judgmental is interesting though, especially when you talk about your kind of practice of presence.
Mm,
Because
yeah.
one of my favorite attitudes of mindfulness is
Mm,
returning. To me,
returning. Yeah.
that's the
Beautiful.
practice.
It's
So I
like
guess
it's never gone.
yeah, because I think part of stumbling is like regaining balance, but like I'm
Mm,
emphasizing
yeah.
the stumbling.
Wow. That's
Um,
so beautiful.
so that was one thing I wanted to tell you about, and then another thing, like I find self-criticism, like this is a weird quirk of mine,
Mm,
is I find self-criticism like attractive. Like I find it like very interesting. Like people
mm,
with self-critics. It's to me, it's fascinating. And so I think the fact that you're going, so in some dance therapy I've looked at, they,
yeah.
they emphasize the witness a lot. So like
Yeah.
the judge is good at witnessing you, you know, and then you
Yeah.
like there's kind of two ways they play with it. One is to go from harshness to compassion, and
Mm.
one is to go from, which I actually find easier.
Yeah.
The harder move for me is judgment to neutrality or
Yeah.
even compassion.
See, that's what I was sort of meditating last night and I kind of came to that realization where I think I was like, sorry, this is like, but I was like, I feel like, yeah, exactly. Like I was like, maybe like, because the thing is, I think that I came to a place of neutrality, which is actually quite rare for me because, and then I realized sometimes like, obviously love is the
Mhm.
most beautiful emotion, but you want it to emerge or like sorry, this is going to sound weird, but and it's just something that I'm thinking about last night, but it's like you want it to emerge semi organically. You don't want to feel like, and I think probably as a woman socializes like as a woman and things, sometimes it feels like you're sort of tripping over yourself, again the stumbling, but you're looking for love and you're trying to keep a state of love and maintain a state of warmth for other people and for yourself. And like actually, that's so much work.
Yeah.
And it's you're nearly like it's and sometimes it can be coming from a place of fear because you're basically afraid of judgment, you're afraid of the harsh, you're
Yeah.
afraid of the cold.
Mhm.
So it's like, what if you could just rest in a neutral place, which you don't have to pump it up with all that love emotion. And I actually realized I've been doing that and it's a little bit exhausting, trying to constantly bleed love. You know what I mean? Like I'm not it's a weird one for me to say because I also am like a devotee of love and I really, I've chosen this space and I think it's the most powerful thing in the world is love. So I'm not really fully sure, but I think maybe just to give myself a break sometimes and just rest in a neutral space.
Yeah.
would be powerful, you know?
Yeah, and then there's just like interesting, yeah, because I love how you said that being a devotee of love. I would agree.
Yeah.
I would I want to adopt that as a phrase.
Just
Like
put it there. I hadn't thought of it before, but yeah.
yeah, devotee of love.
Very true. Like, and so like sometimes I'm chaotically stumbling and even like, sorry to interrupt, but like even like falling, tripping over myself for the sake of love, and there's a beauty to that. So I'm like, oh, like, but I also just want to be like 100% present and neutral, you know? So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like interesting. Well, because I'm thinking about like this relationship between like truth and love, and like is it
Mm.
love like a socially I like this belief like you're my just because you use socialize with someone like you're my partner, you know,
Right, right, right.
child, my son. That could be an interesting one, like a mom and a son. Like I love you. Like it's not
Yeah.
feeling, it's like the social conditioning and like the
Mm.
and like holding that when it's like I fucking am so pissed at you right now because you are
Yeah.
annoying the shit out of me and or like I am so bored right now, you know,
Yeah.
some kind of actual feeling and
Yeah.
and it won't be felt because it's scary, I think.
Yeah.
And that's what's tiring. So but if I could just be neutral and be like, wow, I'm really pissed at my child right now.
Yeah. That's
uh,
so true. That's so true. Because like admitting negative emotions and just being like not judging them, just holding them and being like, okay, there's that. But like it and the thing is they're not they become less threatening when you're not trying to suppress them. Because like, you know, you have because love, like obviously love means a million different things. And one of the things it means is commitment.
mhm.
So like even if you don't feel the emotion of warmth with a person at that moment of time, it's you're committed to they're your son or they're your wife or whatever. You're like you're committed to them. So you know, so there's a strength there. But yeah, no, it's just very interesting. Um, I suppose, yeah, like love is such an umbrella term. Like there's so many different things related to it. But yeah, I think I need to explore more neutrality because I think that would be extremely empowering for me, you know?
Hmm.
And
Yeah, let's
like, mm,
explore it together, see what happens.
yeah.
Neutrality. Yeah, I guess, yeah, maybe we could riff a little bit on what would that look like from an art perspective?
Yeah, that's really interesting because yeah, no, that's really interesting for sure because I suppose a lot of like well my first thought is like a lot of art is perspectival or you know or you're invested in some way or like it's coming from a place of love but it can also be like this is how I feel in relation to this thing and everything. So but again I think even it's like what you said as well about returning to presence because even then like neutrality is always kind of there like and it has to be as an artist because you're never fully well the way I see it like with songs or with different things I'm embodying it's like the characters again so you have a second order presence and self but then you're embodying different things in different modes so yeah what do you think what do you think about that
About the neutrality? Yeah,
yeah
I think what comes to mind, yeah, especially with what you're talking about with the different modes, is
yeah
is I go back to the mist. How to
yeah
live my life in the mist. And then it's so interesting because I'll just tell a story about right now I've encountered speaking of the future, like you talk to your future self, I've
mm,
encountered a being who's claiming to be a clinical psychologist from the year 2066. His name's Dr. Thomas Mudd. That's what he calls himself.
what
And
like online or like
no, in my head, like when
oh,
I close my
right, right.
eyes.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And it's very interesting and he's giving me ideas about dance therapy and ecstatic dance and I'm
Oh my God.
chronicling them and they seem really interesting but I'm
Right.
trying the feeling is very energizing and electric and I'm excited
Okay.
but the neutrality is this thing of like what is actually going on here, you know, who is this
Mm.
being, One of my favorite, this guy studies UFOs, Jacques Vallée. He
Yeah.
said, just because a message comes from heaven doesn't mean it's not stupid.
Right. That's so interesting. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so the neutrality helps me like feel safe. It's like, okay,
Yeah, yeah, that
I'm
makes a lot of
getting,
sense. Keep you
I'm
grounded.
getting, yeah, grounded. Yeah, I'm getting this being is contacting me. I'm open to it. But like, what is he interested in Brian for? That's kind of interesting. Like, why of all the people in Pittsburgh and the world who open themselves up psychically, why me? That's so
Yeah.
neutrality helps me keep things in check. So I guess there's a
Yeah,
functional
that makes
aspect of
a lot of
neutrality.
sense. I get you. No, that makes sense. And I suppose like everything, like the thing about neutrality is it's a holistic perspective. Like everything, and it is, you know, it's kind of interesting as well because neutrality is neutral, but it's also nearly like a loving acceptance. Like it's neutral, but it's kind of a little bit loving, but just not an attached love, you know? Like I don't know, I was just thinking about it because I studied a little bit of Chinese philosophy, and they talk about detachment,
Right.
and but detachment is not a separation from love. It's like an acceptance. It's like a type of radical acceptance where you've transcended and you still feel a love, but it's just not attached, you know? So, but that's the thing about I don't know, that's just one observation. But the other one is with neutrality, it's nearly like you're holding the full sphere and you can see it from all angles. And it's like this is at once like, I don't know, let me think of an example. Like, say for example, you can see the reductive view of your experience and the painful views or like the other people's views or whatever, but then you can also see the beautiful involved view. And you're not really choosing anyway. You can just see it all and you're just holding it there and you're just accepting it all. You know, it's like this. It's nearly like close to divine love, I would say. Like I don't know, but it's hard. Like I don't know. I need to practice more, but yeah.
You want to practice divine love?
Well, okay, cool. What's your suggestion?
I don't know. Like, I'm wondering. When you were talking, I was thinking about like connecting with you, and I was thinking about like empathy actually, and
Yeah.
like really interesting relationship between like non-attachment. So if I allow you to be yourself and not attached
Mm,
to like you need to be my right now you're like my guest on the podcast. So we have like this
yeah.
thing, like this image and I know you through your blogs. And so I have
Yeah.
this like fantasy of you that is like so funny because it's just so limited. And I'm just talking to you. We've talked a little on Instagram and I'm just learning about you, but my attachments to the fantasy image of Molly prevent
Mm,
me from seeing you and feeling
yeah.
and connecting with you, and you're being
Right.
vulnerable and sharing your insides with me. So if
Mm,
I'm attached to like Molly as this person, I
yeah.
I want what you say to break those images and
Yeah. That's so
be
stunning.
non-attached so I can know you and empathize with you and see you.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And that's really interesting. Yeah, like the power of it's nearly like the power of the image as well and like Instagram and like all that stuff. I think it definitely happens with like or online identities, you know, there can be um but yeah, it's fascinating as well because I think I also have to learn how to be present with myself. Like one has to learn because like in a way, like obviously I'm a human being and I can be a receiver
Hmm.
and a channeler of things. And, you know, I'm very grateful for that. But I'm also just a piece of like material. You know what I mean? And like I don't know what I have. Like I think that's part of the fear of like pure presence is like, what if there's nothing there? But that's also what's amazing about it, you know?
Ooh. Well, if we got into like some spiritual topics, which we talk about sometimes, it's like one of the things I think about is like emptiness and self. That's
Yeah.
the primordial debates. Like at the core, is there this like unified like seed of
Mm,
divinity that like is in our flesh, or is there like emptiness and
right.
void,
Yeah.
like more Buddhist? And I think it's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh no,
And
it's definitely.
I like your idea of both and like being both.
Mm,
Like what
yeah.
is it like to be an enlightened Buddhist? And that might take a lot of work to play that character versus what's it like to be like an enlightened or like to really touch pure self or something.
Mm.
Um, Kind of fascinating. I don't
Oh
know.
no, it's really interesting. Um, yeah. I mean, I know sometimes like it's like to do with meaning as well. Like how important is meaning, you
Hmm,
know? Because I guess sometimes I feel an emotion and then I attach I like or I not even an emotion, it could be deeper than that. I say a state and
okay.
like a state of unity and then I attach a meaning to it like I'm connecting with my soul
Yeah.
or I'm connecting with the interconnectedness of all beings or something like this and I'm giving it meaning and that's beautiful and it's part of what we do as human beings but like you were saying about neutrality and like not maybe we don't need to even attach to the meaning maybe we can just say that was a moment in time it was beautiful I enjoyed it it was it was a feeling but like it was a state and I don't need to say anything more than that about the stuff that I don't know about what it means.
Yeah.
It's kind of tragic in a way but it's also quite beautiful to
Yeah.
let go in that sense to really radically let go of trying to grasp.
I know. Like letting the mystery be.
Yeah, because
What?
it's so fascinating.
Yeah. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
No, 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 no. I don't really know. I just, yeah. It's like I don't know. I think you have to have a little bit of. I don't know. I'm just learning myself, but like, I guess I felt I was on a quest to increased wholeness,
Ooh.
but I've never felt. But the problem with any that's this the whole Buddhist thing again. Like the problem with any type of desire is you're not valuing what you have already. Sometimes it depends how you frame it, but if you're framing it in a way where it's coming from a place of lack, then that's just a recipe for unhappiness. So maybe I don't know. I'm just like interested in this idea of just letting go, even of my quest for wholeness, and just being like, even when I feel imperfect, even when I feel disconnected, that's a state. That's that, that I'm not just accept it and detach from it.
Hey, can I run past my ethics, my artistic aesthetic
Oh my
ethics,
God,
and
I
see
want to
if you
hear it.
can
Yeah, yeah,
break
totally.
them? Because like I'm calling it ethical hedonism right now.
Oh,
And so
wow.
basically my current philosophy is to fully
Mm,
accept Buddhism, the idea that samsara, like that striving for anything
yeah,
hurts, but then
yeah,
doing it anyways. So it's like I want to feel good, even though it's futile, and like face
right,
the futility, the existential
right, right, right,
futility.
right. I see what you mean.
Yeah, and just do it, and then
Yeah.
like enjoy, not enjoy, like maybe
Mm,
enjoy in a looking like a psychoanalytic sense, but it doesn't feel good. Like enjoy,
yeah.
right? Because I love romance a lot, and
Mm.
romance is a recipe for disaster. Like it's so good.
No, but
And
but this is again, sorry, can I say one thing?
uh,
This is again what we are talking about between fears that are chosen versus fear, like
yeah.
like the rent is due, ones that aren't chosen. Like the fact that you're self-awarely being like, okay, well, I'm choosing to go on this journey, this whirlwind, this ups and downs of romance or whatever. I'm ready for the fall.
Mhm.
Like that, but that's coming, it's like you know what you're doing. So that's freedom. So there's no problem with that. Yeah, it's just I guess it's when you're doing something without awareness.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's really cool. So ethical hedonism. There's a book called The Ethical Slut, which first popped into my mind. That's
Cool.
have you read? Do you know it? It's about polyamory.
Yeah, I know I haven't read it, but I've been going. I went to I saw this thing on Meetup, and it was
Mhm.
friend networking.
Okay, yeah.
It was friend speed friending, like speed dating, but for
Ah, I
friends.
went to one of those. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was like, oh, that looks cool. And it turned out it was a group of
Polyamory.
polyamorous. And I was
Oh,
like, oh, this is an interesting environment to be in. And I'm hanging out with them. It's fun. So they read that.
dude. Yeah, no, it's funny. Like I think a lot of these like I went to a speed friending thing, but then there end up being a sort of a speed dating as well. But
Yeah.
That's interesting. Um,
With the
yeah.
ethical eating. I
Mm,
think what you're saying is interesting. Yeah, like I think I like this idea of yeah, because Buddhism, let's just use that as a framework, suffering,
mm.
and then one ethical response is like go to the monastery,
Right, right, right. Yeah.
and
But
I don't
I
like
think I think no, I don't want to go to the monastery either, honestly.
that.
But like, I don't know. I'm still figuring out. But like, it's like, yeah, I don't know. What were you gonna say? So you're saying you're just like you're kind of like yeah, you know, it's interesting because it's doing like a Nietzschean perspective. I feel you have like or something like the gay signs. I'm thinking of like the gay signs where it's like it's kind of like they're like because it's like a type of nearly like it's not nihilism, but nearly, you know, where, but it's like a positive life affirming nihilism where you're like, just like, you know what I'm saying, which is cool.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's like that. Because I don't like with the mystery thing,
Mm,
I don't know if I don't know what's going to happen when I die. And there's
yeah.
definitely the possibility that it's hell
Yeah.
voting for me. And then I guess there's a possibility of heaven, but that is looking less and
Mm,
less likely. And or me like flux, there's so many things. I'm not gonna know about that. So I think, yeah, something about just going for life, going for it.
yeah, no, that's so beautiful. And I'm the same, like honestly, like I suppose I'm not like I do have kind of like I'm not gonna abandon the quest, but I guess like you have like I think the quest and the adventure is like valuable in itself. And I also like I guess I'm nearly like a poly like theorist or like a poly like I have many things that I'm interested in and I'm like dipping my
Cool.
toe in them. But like I suppose like myths and like you know that arc of a myth and like that arc of a story like the hero's journey
Yeah.
like that is so beautiful as well and I often feel like that represents an aspect of life I suppose like yeah I'm not really I don't know but like yeah I guess I'm just trying to find a way of living that like works you know that like I'm maybe not 100% decided but one of the things I was like well maybe I don't need to constantly be pursuing warmth and like
Mhm.
you know what I was saying nearly to a self-deprecating degree where I was saying earlier right like feeling the need to constantly choose compassion and love like maybe I need to like be a bit more neutral around that but in general I think I am still committed to the quest or the adventure you know what I mean
Mhm. The
yeah
question and adventure of like loving everyone.
yeah well I think it's oh sorry I just found something I thought it was going to be a tarot card but it was just but no that would have been really cool but
Yeah,
no
the next
I
one.
guess ultimately I want to like chisel. It's mostly my creativity. I'm like trying to chisel away at the mystery and like externalize my spirit, and also like speak on behalf of like I think a huge passion, like a huge thing that I'm interested in. It's the mysterious and the hidden aspects of life, but also like what's often associated with the feminine because
Hmm.
I guess like you know oftentimes like the feminine is associated with the moon, the darkness, the hidden aspects of life
Yeah.
and I just feel a very strong connection to that and I'm like I just feel I need to chisel at it I need that's like nearly another one of my things that I'm devoted to is
Mhm.
like trying to externalize that a little bit or to the degree that it can still remain itself and be articulated like through my art and stuff so that's like ultimately what I want to do is just make good art and like and that's my quest.
That's so cool. Yeah, you're revealing there's this myth, this quest that you're on to explore the mystery and with your art and reveal it and share it.
Oh, totally yeah totally like I know that's what I'm here to do you know.
Yeah. How's that been going recently?
It's great. It's great. Like I like it's really cool. Yeah, like I've been like I like honestly like a lot so I quit my job. I was teaching just to focus on music and art and stuff like that. And like it's funny, some like I'm like now I'm like a that's another thing I'm devoted to. Everybody quitting their job. That's so
Let's do
bad.
it.
I'm like the town choir, but I'm like, quit your
Yeah.
job. I did it. It worked for me. No,
Okay.
but no, sorry, just so funny. But no, but ever since I did that, I don't know, doors have just opened. It is funny the way sometimes when you do the right thing at the right time, you know what I mean? So but no, it's been going great. Like I've got a few musical collaborations. One is with this rapper called Blue Nile, and we're planning to release some music in the coming months.
Okay.
And then the other ones are with my band. And yeah, it's powerful stuff. Like it's relationships building, and also um yeah, I just feel like I'm really in the right place, and like things are flourishing in a really nice way. Feel really grateful.
Hmm. Okay, so
Yeah.
there's some concrete like projects, some
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that you're revealing the mysteries from. So you've got this rap collaboration coming up.
Yeah.
You have your
Mhm.
band. Tell us about your band.
Good with the band. Yeah. We're hoping to record some music soon as well. We've been just doing gigs and stuff. But yeah, like yeah, I'll give you the name of one of our songs, which
Okay.
I think it's just relevant to all the stuff we've been discussing. Um, it's called "Girlies Own the Void."
Girlies Own the Void.
Yeah,
Hell
so
yeah.
it's interesting because it's like it's so like this is again what I'm trying to. It's kind of like a song to my younger self where I'm trying to explain to a young girl like me or myself that like not being able to understand this world of things and feeling disconnected from it and feeling disconnected from basically industrial world and go-getter mentality and things like that actually isn't a weakness. It's a huge strength because I was always connected to the unseen.
Hmm.
So, and it's also slightly like it's like a feminist song. And but that anyway, that's one of the songs. It's just as a little hint, but we'll be releasing them soon as well.
Oh,
um but it's like, yeah, it's called Girlies on the Void. It's all about that, and it's like I shout the chorus. I'm like, but I won't do it for you. I won't do it for you.
please.
Oh no, no, I won't right now. I won't right now.
Okay. Never.
But I need like the music and so on. It just won't sound good.
Okay.
But anyway, but yeah. So anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up because it's relevant to everything. Yeah.
And it was like prophetic of this conversation potentially, or
Oh
that
wow, so interesting.
in my
Yeah,
mind.
I'm like going back to go forward. Oh my God, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Girlies Own the Void. Um,
And then will I tell you more about with the rapper, what I'm doing with the rapper,
yeah.
or yeah,
Uh-huh.
so he raps in a mixture of English and Irish, and we're working on, so we're sort of using Irish tunes that I know, like Sean Nuss is a particular type of singing in the Irish language that I learned when I was in school. So we're sort of sampling that and including his rap about Ireland and about politics and the state of the nation and things. And hopefully we'll see, but maybe I'll have some more I might do a bit of rapping as well, but we'll
Oh,
see.
good. Yes.
But
Looking
yeah,
for.
I've like written some words as well as the Irish, and yeah, it's truly it's just yeah, it's like one of those things where I just knew. Basically, we met at a Irish singing event, and yeah, like I sang a Shanno song, and which just means old style, and he heard me and asked me if we'd like to if I'd like to collaborate, and it's just one of those moments where I was like hallelujah, like I was just like thank you, thank you, thank you. I just knew it was a good thing instantly.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So so that's been great as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So with our conversation so far, there's been, I think, one way to have a theme is we've been
Mm.
discussing a bit like process and outcome.
Yes.
So like outcome is usually a big fixation on what when it comes to art or politics or anything or healing. And you seem to be very focused on the process. Um,
Yeah.
and like one thing I was interested in is maybe you could riff off this idea of like my fantasy of you when you're singing is that it feels like really good, like you're following.
Totally. No, it's 100% amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, what's that like? Can you talk to us about what goes on for you when you're singing and performing?
Oh my God. Like, well, it's really interesting because like singing is such a spiritual thing. Like it really is. Like, it's like, anyway, there's a few things. Like one of the reasons is like, why do you do it? Why do people perform? Like, why do people choose this slightly unusual environment where it's like nearly hyper reality. I feel like
Mm.
everything's heightened, like because everyone's looking at you and there's like adrenaline and everything. The moment is nearly frozen and everything's heightened. And you were talking about process and outcome. It has to be processed there because it only exists in that moment, that time. It can never be repeated. If you make a mistake, like you're live streaming, it's like performative element to live streaming. So I suppose I feel, yeah, I nearly feel like a vessel. Like it's happening in that moment. And, it's like, I kind of, what I try to do is like bend my feet and like connect with the earth and like bring it up, like connect with everything and just like, yeah, just like do it. So it's like, oh, it's so cool. It's like, it's just joy. And like also you discover new tones. So sometimes it's in rehearsal. Like that's mostly what I was describing as like when you're performing, but then in rehearsal, it's really like painting, like you're just experimenting with like different tones and the voice and like different like energetics, and you're just learning. And then like when it comes to performance, it's like also just connecting with people, and it's just amazing. But yeah, I had this great singing teacher as well, and like she helped me a lot because I suppose I was like classically trained as a singer, and I was very basically focused on the head voice or like the higher, and I associate that it was like higher realms, like it was like I was a chorister in like cathedrals and all that type of classical singing, all that type of thing. But then she really helped me open up like my chest voice, like that deep power, like that comes from the earth, and like that stronger sound, that louder sound. So that's
Mhm.
been really cool as well.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. I think this is cool because like, okay, the one, like the synesthesia type thing, like the seeing the colors when singing, that is really fun. And
Oh
then,
wow.
yeah,
Yeah,
the,
I don't actually see colors when singing, but it feels like colors, if you get me. It feels
feels
a
like,
bit like painting. Yeah.
yeah, it really resonates because like I think of it as like when I'm like being more pointed and like more like shrill is the only word I can think of. Like I see like dots coming out. I was like, oh, it's like a dot of color. And
Yeah.
then you can have like a brush when it's like more smooth and long, like
Totally, totally, totally.
and I've got like a visual hyper
With
visual.
emotion as well, it adds a whole
Oh
new
yeah.
palette, like when you once you add the emotions and the words. Yeah, yeah.
What I want for people though, like what I want for myself, and then this is also something I want to, a frequency I want to transmit that you're helping me like concretize more is like, doesn't it suck to like your play and experimentation with the voice is to me, I get a feeling of excitement and liberation when I hear you. And
That's so
I, rec-
cool.
and I recognize in myself, it's so hard not to have just self-hatred or judgment. It's like,
No.
how do I sound? They hate me. I suck.
Oh, no, I know, I know, I know. And like it's interesting the way you do ecstatic dance because
Yeah.
I haven't been moving, like I've just been singing, but I think some of it is like I feel that like sometimes you feel you need to tick a box. Like with singing, I did get a lot of training and I've always sort of been singing in tune. So that's like I've ticked a box that then gives me freedom. But sometimes it's like, why do you have to tick a box? Because like I never really did dance classes or knew how to dance.
Mhm.
But throughout most of COVID, I spent it dancing around my parents' house, like just dancing, dancing, dancing. And now when I try and dance, I immediately judge myself pretty much, even if I'm just dancing at home to myself, unless maybe I've had a drink.
That helps.
But yeah, it's interesting because dancing is such a primordial thing, and I'd love to hear you talk more about the ecstatic dance. Yeah. So like we're like I found all these videos that I have from back then, and like it doesn't matter if the dancing is good or bad. It's like when you're feeling it so much and it's so real, like that's all that you need.
Yeah, yeah, happy to talk about that. And I think there's convergence with the singing too.
Yeah.
There's a convergence in is I think there two, first of all, just to validate our self-hatred and self-criticism. Like if you go to TikTok or
Mm.
Instagram, there are people being bullied for their
Right, 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 right.
voices in the dance, and people are saying you look stupid and you suck. So
Mm,
it's very
mm,
real. So it's not anything that's surprising that we have
mm. No,
that.
that's true. Yeah.
And then it's probably also coming from our childhood at some point.
Yeah.
Conformity
Yeah.
is trained into us. Um,
Mm.
art breaks conformity, and your dance is unique and interesting.
Mm.
Um, so like the first step is the safety,
Yeah.
the safety in self to like, and the security to really it's to express ourselves. And then I think with
Mm.
improvisation and freedom of movement, there's a difference in because I'm now doing a lot of dance training, but it kind of came after the freedom.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And
Yeah.
there's like a shift in like, I want more affordances and language to express the
Mm,
thing
yeah, that's so cool.
versus
I
I
would
need,
love that. I would,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead. I've another story for you in a minute, but yeah.
yeah. And versus I need to know how to do ballet because if I don't, my dad
Mm.
won't like me or something.
Oh no, no, I totally get it. It
Yeah.
needs to come from a real place. Yeah.
So I think it's different. So there's
Yeah.
definitely room for training
Yeah,
and,
oh no, totally. That's true. It's like when you find the reason to train. Oh no,
yeah.
I'd love to do some dance training. Like I've always like, a really interesting thing. This is the story I was going to tell you. We were in a studio doing a music video recently, and there was a black curtain on
Ooh.
the walls of the studio. And I know you're on the level for this because I was telling some of my bandmates and things about it, and they were like, "Molly, like, are you stoned? Like, what are you talking about?" But I know you'll get it. So anyway, so there was a black curtain, and anyway, I was like, "What's behind that black curtain?" Okay, and anyway, I pulled the curtain, and there was a mirror there. And in fairness, we were in a dance studio at the time, but that's where we were shooting the music video. But I didn't recognize myself for a good 3 or 4 seconds, and sort of apologized and said like, "Oh, sorry, I'm in your way." But the immediate thought that I had about this woman in the mirror that I saw that I didn't know was myself was, "Oh, she's just a dancer." That was
Mm,
the immediate thought. I
mm,
was like, "She's a dancer," and we were in a dance studio, and I was like, but there was no doubt in my mind through all the confusion of not recognizing myself, that 3 to 4 seconds of confusion and saying sorry and so on. The thing that felt really certain and real was that this woman in front of me, who was myself, was a dancer. And I was just like, that was honestly the thing that made me go through all those old videos and stuff, because I was like, I need to pay more attention to this. This feels like a sort of a sign, or it was just very interesting because then the two lads that I was working with came back, and I was like, I like opened the curtain and I was like, look, it's so magical. There's like a whole realm here opening up. But it's so funny with that type of thing because the free zone, like the energy just dissipates when it's
yeah.
not, because I was in there by myself for a few minutes and suddenly this realm opened up and it was really, but then it just passed like once the others came back and after a few minutes. But yeah, I found that quite moving actually. I was like, and that's when I started looking through the old dance videos, and we're probably going to use some of them as well for this next project. But yeah,
Wow. I'm also very moved by that story because
I know.
what a powerful symbol. You opened the curtain
Yeah,
and your dancer emerged from it,
yeah,
and then it stimulated a lot.
yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah, I just saw her and I was like, she's a dancer. There was no question. It was so interesting. Yeah, and I'm still calling it her though because I didn't recognize myself. It's so funny.
Yeah, there's something that about that inner dancer that is like alien almost, or
Right.
you can't accept it.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah. And like that's the thing. I did do it as nearly a research practice. Maybe I can even send you some stuff if you're interested. But I did it as like a research where I was trying to find truths inside me. Like you can find trauma, but you can find emotions. It's
Oh
like
yeah,
a type of mining.
yeah,
You dance for hours, like, and you're paying attention. You find all sorts of things within you that you didn't know were there. Like it's so fascinating.
yeah. I love that. It's one reason I really like dance as expressive art because well, the creativity is amazing and the healing is amazing. Because I think this is kind of my motto of the mind right now is it's like I emotion gets associated with being scared, so anger,
Mm.
like being horny, being sad, things that can
Yeah.
can be cause ripples in the world. It's like
Yeah.
happen and it doesn't go well, and so this like form of
Mm.
armoring happens, and then emotions get cut off. But the problem with that is all the emotions are there, like joy, like when I'm cut off from anger, I'm cut off from this whole
Yeah.
tapestry of experience. All
Mm.
I need to do to get there is like get a little hot and like shake a little bit and maybe like have a release of tears, and it's actually
Yeah.
the experience of emotion is like you're saying earlier, fine, but it's the meaning and the
Yeah.
identity, like this mental
Mm.
breaking down that emotion that happens with emotion. The somatic, and sometimes this reaction
Mm.
to it can be difficult, but the somatic experience of emotion, even the ones labeled difficult, is typically not horrible to some.
No, true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's really interesting. Yes, it's a type of compassionate thing as well, in a sense. But yeah, I really wish that you were closer because I would love to go to one of your ecstatic dance things. I need to find something like that here. Actually, even something like that here. So I
Yeah.
think maybe that's what I need to open up the train. Like maybe I can do training afterwards. But even at the moment, I'm kind of I'm sort of stuck because I
Oh,
used to be able to dance for hours by myself and like have a whole journey of discovery. But lately, I just find it harder to get into the zone. So yeah, I think I need other people to help me. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And then when you do your North American tour for Japan, you pop up.
Totally.
They're gonna,
Amazing.
yeah. Yeah. And then we'll keep in touch about that because I'm curious how you're dancing. I'm doing vocal lessons right now.
Oh, fab.
Yeah. I had
Amazing.
in fifth grade in the US, I was in class, I was singing Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day.
Yeah.
He turned around and said, "You should never sing."
Oh no, that's terrible.
And I stopped. I listened to
Oh
that
no, that's so bad. That's so bad.
for too
I
long.
know, I know, I know. But
And I
you're getting it
letting
back
up.
now, so that's
Yeah,
great.
it's
Yeah,
good. It's
yeah,
good. But I feel you.
yeah.
I connect with you. Like kind of,
Yeah.
it's interesting because I've like felt safer going into dance and you've been feeling safer going into voice recently, and we're kind of
Yeah.
wanting to explore the opposite. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
cool. Yeah, we should definitely stay in contact about all of that. Yeah.
sing to you and you can dance around. Deal.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
uh, uh, so okay, so you had this experience with. So we got on this thread via the embodied experience of pleasure and performance,
Hmm.
and I guess we both can feel like I'm trying to step into that via find the pleasure in the voice, and you're trying to find the pleasure in the body. I'm wondering how you're the one
Hmm.
in the mirror, like what dance feels like for her,
Sorry, what was the question? I wonder what dance feels like for my mirror
for the
image.
woman in the mirror.
Yeah, no, that was really interesting because in my head she was like she looked like nearly older or like more balanced, like and it was like, oh, I was like, she was maybe a teacher or like just like very like she's a dancer, that was for sure. But it was like I don't know, it's just interesting. Like it's nearly like I get a glimpse into the future or something. But like but how would she approach it? I think again it's just joy. Like honestly, I think it's just joy and expression. Like just like connecting with what needs like I don't think it would be too different to what I'm doing now through the voice, which is just like connecting with what needs to be vocalized and like honoring that and like a kind of mining I think as well like was what I was doing before, but like it's just so healing. I don't know, it's like so many like nearly buzzwords but none of them get close to it, you know. But
I
but
wonder. Sorry.
head sorry.
Yeah, I keep interrupting you not because I'm being rude, but because I just get excited when you're talking, and I'm like,
Oh,
sorry.
totally. That's a great idea. No, because I'm stumbling as well, so we can
Yeah,
interrupt each other. No problem.
yeah, we'll break that social convention down. I love it. I wonder what you think about this. So one idea in like you were talking about teaching, and
Yeah.
like this interesting idea with art, like pedagogy, because we're talking about like how to be free, and then like tradition can be oppressive, but then
Mm,
also a teacher can be the greatest asset. And I
yeah.
think like one of my favorite things to do now, and this happened to me, is like when I was stepping out into my dance practice, I remember
Yeah.
someone came up to me on the dance floor and they were
Yeah.
connected with me and they started doing this wild shake and it like taught me how to do it, you know?
So
Like I
cool.
needed to feel that frequency or I needed like I didn't have a model for how to shake like that. And
Yeah.
this person gave me that model and now I just like pass that on. I notice myself shaking and then I come into other people's and they're like, oh,
Yeah,
I can
I
do that.
know.
And
I know.
I feel like sometimes we need like co-regulation, you know, we need like,
Oh, totally. You're right. Like, there's only so, like, you can either find it from deep within you or from like spiritual realms, like that. But if you're like, or like, if you're not going like a traditional sort of like canon route of like teaching yourself moves, you have to find it either from something within your body or within the earth or the sky, or, but then like other people are amazing. Like, obviously you have like, you find truth through others as well. And I just wanted to give this metaphor. I was talking to my friend about it because I think as well, like even healing, it works like that. Like, I have a guide who's helped me go through things, and then I'm like talking to a friend and like helping them go through something. And it's like, but there's this beautiful song, I mean, by Sinead O'Connor, the Irish singer who passed away, and in it, it's called Angel, and she talks about a golden chain to hang my love upon. And I've just been thinking about that metaphor a lot, like the golden chain, like it goes round and then it connects to the next one, it goes round, it connects to the next one, and it's like that's what we're here for as well. Like, just to spread the what you've learned to others in this kind of not necessarily in a structural way, but in a way where it's the right time to share that insight and just give what you've received. And I think that's such a beautiful thing as well. Like a mentor type position or a teacher type position is so beautiful because it's a way to give back all of those people who have helped you on your journey, and like honor everything and just continue the legacy. It's so lovely.
oh, that's a good one. That's an interesting segue. Something I've been wanting to ask people about is influences. So you
Mm.
mentioned Sinead O'Connor. Who are some of your like creative influences? Or I know that's
Yeah.
a big question, but who's been influencing you recently, maybe?
Yeah, who's been influencing me recently? Sorry, I'm actually really bad with this type of question.
Okay, we can
Like,
ignore it.
because I'm like, I don't know. Let me think. Like
Can you
I'm sort of um, so I'm kind of like it just depends on sort of because it depends on kind of what I'm trying to channel at that time.
yeah.
So you mean musically? Like, I suppose like I really like that kind of sort of Maisie Star kind of like sort
Mhm.
of like vibe, like um but I don't know. I always struggle with that question because I actually think what's happening to me, I approach a lot of things not through sound initially,
Oh,
I think what I do is I approach things through thought initially.
interesting.
Yeah, and so what's happening is I'm having conversations with people like yourself or my collaborators, and they're opening up whole ideas, and then I'm meditating and I'm getting ideas from that, and then I start to think, well, what sound should I do, and then that impacts the sound. But it's not like I know other people do it in a more intuitive way where they're like trying to just like they're just painting and they're like collaging and they're like, oh, I like this sound, like I want an 80s synth style with whatever. But like I guess with me it comes like the first project, I'm honestly on the creative quest, but I'm also on a spiritual quest and
Yeah.
a learning quest. And like I suppose the way my process goes is oftentimes language does play an important part. And like I used to be kind of ashamed of that because it makes some people think it make oh, sorry, I just pressed a button, but it can make you, it's just a more cerebral way of operating. It doesn't mean it's less. But like for example, like I did a whole music project for a master's, and I did it very much through like I had to write a thesis and there was a whole concept, and I think that way is sort of never gone away. But yeah, so things I'm getting inspired by is like my collaboration with the rapper is really interesting because the way we were talking about the mystery and all this type of thing, what he brings is the human and the struggle and the groundedness, and like obviously that's associated with rap, like the sort of urban aspects and like the um
Yeah.
kind of imperfect human reality, and like, but that's beautiful too, you know, and that strength of just being human. And like, I suppose what I'm always interested in is like divine, transcendental, mysterious, like just to exaggerate, but so that's one thing. I'm trying to give it more of a grittiness, you know, a grittiness to that. So to be honest, yeah, I don't know what to say. I suppose it's mostly my relationships and my own thoughts and my own journey influence me.
Mm.
Then sometimes I hear a sound or I get an idea, but it's very disparate. Like even that one "Girlies Own the Void," like that line, it came from a meme that I saw like when I was kind of maybe 10 years ago, that said "Bitches Own the Void," and I was really interested in like Sadie Plant and all that type of thing at the time, and I saw
Oh
this
yeah.
meme saying "Bitches Own the Void," and so like it's all mixed up. It's not necessarily like I'm trying to recreate a sound by particular musicians or something like that, you know. It's like a whole world, and then I'm just like, something stick though, and you know when it sticks, like that one just never went away. "Bitches on the Void," then I changed it to "Girlies on the Void." I was like, that just, it stuck with me. I knew I had to write a song about it, you know.
That is so inspiring. Like I love how you work. I'm just
Oh
kind of gushing because it's like one, there was like a vulnerable aspect of what you're saying because you're like have a sharp critical mind and so you explore that in art and there's almost like a taboo or like people are like
yeah.
intuitive. But I actually think how I experience your process and I'm just getting to know it. I feel like it is hyper creative because you're like elevating life. Like instead of saying like, oh, I have to be within this lineage of musicians and here's the canon. It's like you can just get a meme or you can just have a conversation, and that could be the mystery. That could be what
No,
opens
that's
the door.
totally what I do. Like honestly, that's really cool. Thanks. I feel very seen. That's very nice of you to
Yeah,
say.
I feel I love when at life is elevated because I feel like it's almost like yeah, it just puts things in a box. It defangs art, I think, when
I
we
know, I know, I know. And yeah, I think that's a really sad thing to do. It's disempowering and yeah.
okay, this is a complete left turn, another one. Because you mentioned Sadie Plant.
Yeah.
That's an interesting reference. Are you still interested in that kind of work?
Well, I mean, I'm very rusty on it, so don't give me like, but I was, yeah, and like it was that kind of vibe. I think I didn't even like properly like do a huge studious thing with it, but it was like, you know, about 10 years ago I was very interested in that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know nothing. I mean, it's only like a aesthetic like that I would know. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
No, I to be honest, I don't think I even did a deep dive. I was just like, it was just like that was the vibe. Kind of sorry, I feel a bit embarrassed, but yeah.
no, I because I think this is good. We can be completely embarrassed together because what do you think of vampires?
Vampires, like
It,
spiritual vampires.
well, I don't know. I have this association that I don't know where it's coming from.
Hmm.
Seed plant and vampires.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I get the vibe because I guess this is like hyper. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like that's a slight vibe thing where it's like where you get these intellectuals that are like into like deep technology and like deep like like mathematics, but like mystical mathematics and they're very, very cerebral, very intellectual. And it's like, yeah, there can be a coldness there sometimes, I suppose.
And I want to admit to you that because you're kind of exploring coldness, I have this dream, this recurring dream that a sea captain, and I used to be a work on boats, so a sea captain is chasing a vampire and trying to kill her. And then I'm like, stop.
That's so
Hate,
interesting.
I hate that he wants to kill her. And then I want her, I also, this is a very, I'll just be completely vulnerable. I want mosquitoes to bite me. That's like one of my weirdest quirks is like, I don't,
Oh my God, that's crazy. You're like, that's really interesting. Do you know, it's like, okay, so is it because you believe in the cycle of life or is it like a kink? Like, what's going on here?
I don't think it's kinky because it doesn't feel sexual necessarily, but it just feels like, yes, like take from me. Like I like you.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That's really.
Like I don't have an aversion to being having my blood sucked. And
Mm,
there's a and it reminds me of Jesus,
yeah.
which is like his blood is like there's a term in Galatians. Paul
Mm,
says this thing about emptying. It's the Greek word is
Yeah.
kenosis, to empty. And just on a
Mm,
qualitative level, like I want to, like my goal in a day is to like empty myself.
yeah, that makes a lot. That's really beautiful. Like, I guess, like, I wrote a piece like that as well. It was like, and the last line of it was, "We bleed love again,
Yeah, you
again.
said
We
that
bleed
earlier, and
love."
I really loved it.
Yeah, and it
These
stuck.
love.
Yeah. So that's really, I think that is really beautiful. Like, just to sort of, it's like not sacrificial, but it's like wholly giving and like,
Waste
yeah. Hmm?
and wasting.
And wasting. Wow. Okay.
That's kind of
Um,
an interesting idea. It's like the death of Christ mythologically, it's like such a waste. It's like this is
yeah.
charismatic healing figure, and it's like disappointing. And it's like really the state. This is like so normal, It's like, and this shouldn't
Mm,
be happening. It's almost like a waste. And I think there's a good film called Babette's Feast where she wins
okay.
lottery and she just buys a giant feast and they all eat it in the town. And I just love
Yeah.
that. It's just like, let's
Yeah, yeah,
have
yeah.
this access and just,
Interesting. I'm trying to see because I feel like there definitely is a connection between this ethical hedonism and then this like bleeding, a
yeah,
constant bleeding, constant giving. Um, yeah, I'm just trying to think. I don't like, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely like a vibe for sure. I'm interested in how it relates to the vampire thing though as well, because like, I mean, the vampire and the sailor, like I was very interested by these images, like I suppose like it's interesting because as well because when I was thinking about Sadie Plant, I was thinking about like deep technology, like deep like within the ocean. Like the color that came to me was like dark blue, like dark purple, dark blue, like ocean. Um so yeah, so that's like the sailor maybe who's on top of the ocean. Then where's the vampire? I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. It's very interesting because like by your description of loving to be sort of sucked from as from a blood perspective, you know what I mean?
yeah.
But like, but like, then the vampire is like not in the same position as you. They're like the opposite to you nearly, or like, but they like facilitate what you like or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it because like, it's not like you're the vampire. Like, who are you in that situation? You're neither the vampire or the sailor, but you want the vampire because you're nearly dependent on the vampire for your way of being. I don't know. I'm just trying to. These are all very evocative, so I'm just trying to figure it out in my head. But that's also it. Maybe like it's not something that can be figured out. Maybe it's more just like a intuitive imagistic thing. But
Yeah.
uh, but
Well,
yeah, it's very very interesting. I'm curious about that. I think that's going to help me with the dance as well because I think I was probably in a similar way when I was dancing the whole time.
hmm,
Like I wanted to exhaust myself and I wanted to like I don't know, but I was just like the way I was at the time. I was just like it felt nearly because there's a thing about what you're saying where it's nearly like nothing matters. Like there is that nihilism, that kind of Nietzschean nihilism again, where it's like just like continue to bleed, like continue to work, continue to give this open cup,
hmm,
and like
whoa.
because nothing matters, like just do it. So I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure it out. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, thank you for that. It's so helpful. Thank you for
Oh,
your
good. Okay, great. Because I don't know. I'm just like thinking aloud. But I think it's going to help me with my dance. I think it's going to help open my dance because I guess I felt like I was doing it before. It was like I was communicating with everything. I was like communicating with the trees. I was communicating with the sky. I was like fully like, I actually, it's interesting as well because it's really like a self forgetting that you're describing, like a sort of like because I wrote this thing as well where I nearly said like I want to be dismembered.
yeah.
And then after that, I say, I want to be dismembered. I want to be one with the beating heart of all things. And
That's so
that's like exactly the shamanic sort
mhm,
of like dismemberment as well. Like you're sort of torn apart so that you just become nothing. And it's like this sort of spiritual ecstasy where you're sort of like one with everything and nothing at the same time. And like I think this is really helpful conversation because I think it's going to help me with my dance because I realize now that like I wasn't doing it for myself. I was doing it, I was communicating with trees, with sky, with earth, with everything and connecting with them through the mode of dance. So
Mhm.
that's really going to help me. But it's also, yeah, it's so fascinating. Like, yeah, cool.
Yeah, yeah. If you thank you. Yeah, yeah. I think it's. I'm glad it's resonating. I think I'm couple just a little bit of framing on that. Like my method is about. I call it the anti-self.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
anti-self. And the anti-self is about, and then it's coming out of a kind of Taoist cosmology, which is
Mm-hmm.
this idea of like yin and yang, right? And so one of
Yeah.
the and the I Ching, and like one of the fascinating ideas there is like, don't go against the grain,
Right.
like go with the flow. And so
Right.
yang, if you want yang, you need to fully surrender into yin because the only way you can't turn back. You in yin becomes ultimate yin becomes yang. And so to get it's kind of
Mm.
paradoxical, but to get active, you have to go deep into rest as and get to the bottom of
Yeah.
and then yang will emerge. And so I think the same way with spiritual. Like I don't think I think the ego needs to dissolve fully and just
Yeah.
completely empty. And then it is a nihilism, but it's either like it's either God or love, pure love
Yeah.
at the end, or nihilism. And so we might as well like go for it. I think
Yeah.
there is a
Yeah.
negative project because I think it's hard for the human identity to withstand the fires of love. And
Wow.
yeah, and so like I just try to empty all that and then be open. But
So
like
cool.
the anti-self is how I look at it.
Oh my God. I actually, sorry, let me just turn on the light. I'll be back in a second.
Yeah.
So I want you to send me some of this stuff because yeah, like I'm trying to take it all in, but like if you could, I don't know, I just feel we should keep our dialogue going because I'm actually learning so much. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I like just thinking about like the flow and like going with the flow of like the river or the flow of blood. It's just
Blood, yes,
very
yes, yes, yes.
interesting. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I just would need to study it a bit more probably because that's part of my mode is I like. But
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we'll collaborate well with that because I like to think too.
cool.
Um, yeah, and I think the vampire might just be helpful with that. And
Yeah, totally.
one reason I wanted to bring it up is because I think, yeah, coldness, coldness.
Yeah.
The vampire is cold, and I think I want in my process a little coldness.
Yeah, that's so fascinating because I wonder because I think I was that's it's really serendipitous because I that's also what I was trying to talk about where last night I was meditating and I was like, why am I so afraid of the cold? Why do I have to constantly pump everything with warmth and I'm not saying it's whatever, like it's obviously a defense mechanism, but like why and then you know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah,
think the cold can be so beautiful, like the ice, like that, the particles, like it's just so yeah, so I don't know if you want to do something, maybe we could explore the cold together.
I love that. Yeah, speaking of that, so you've been like super generous with your time today, and I feel like there's some things emerging for us. Maybe we'll do a little collaboration
Oh,
on
totally, I'd love that.
yeah, so we'll talk about that. But how can we the in this container, this
Mm.
at the end of this episode, how can we like help you? Like how can we get involved with your work or experience your work or what's the best way for us to get involved?
Yeah, well, I think a huge one. So we're going to be announcing about our releases. I'll be announcing about my releases pretty soon.
Right.
So, like probably within the next week or two. So like if you just want to follow me on Instagram, there I will like share. Well, it's at MAY Insta, MOLLYMAY, and then Insta. It's short for Instagram, obviously. So if you just follow me there, and then I'll be like announcing about all my upcoming musical projects. And you can also follow my band, which is linked from my Instagram, or subscribe to my blog, which is also linked from my Instagram. They're both the LinkedIn bio. That would be amazing. And yeah, and because I'll be, and then once the music is out, just don't disappear. And like, once the music is out, you can listen. Also, like, if I don't know where in the world you're tuning in from, but like, if you know anywhere that does gigs and would be prepared to to bring me and my band or me and my other collaborators over. Like, obviously that's a huge thing as well. But also, don't, sorry, one last thing, don't be afraid if you like what we're talking about and you want to connect with me or do any sort of something like that, just don't be afraid to connect. And yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, yeah, we'll try to get some tour dates going. That's my goal. And yeah,
That would be so cool. And you can be the dancer for
yeah,
the
oh,
music.
totally. I'd love that.
And
So
then we'll swap
definitely,
places, like you said.
yeah, we'll stream your music, and yeah, I'll put that stuff somewhere where you find this
Cool.
video, folks,
Yeah.
and follow Molly on Instagram. I'll give you last word, Molly. Do you have any final thoughts?
Um, no, just like thank you so much. And here's to the mystery and the material delights.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, everyone. We'll see.